The door to my apartment exploded inward, like Derek had been shot from a cannon. My brother filled the entire frame. 6'4" of gym-sculpted muscle and entitled rage, his face twisted into that familiar sneer I'd grown up watching across dinner tables and family gatherings. "Tommy, you a pathetic piece of crap," he announced, stepping into my living room like he owned it. Behind him, my girlfriend Samantha appeared, her arms already loaded with my clothes from the bedroom. "She deserves better than a weakling like you." I sat frozen on my couch, a cup of coffee halfway to my lips, watching this scene unfold like a bad movie. Samantha, beautiful, ambitious Samantha with her perfect Instagram smile, was actually giggling as she carried armloads of my shirts toward the balcony. "Derek's right, Tommy," she called over her shoulder, her voice bright with cruel amusement. "I need a real man, someone who can actually provide for me." She stepped onto the third-floor balcony and began hurling my clothes over the railing. Not some boring little paper pusher who spends his nights reading legal documents. My favorite blue Oxford shirt floated down like a wounded bird, followed by my work pants, my weekend jeans, everything I owned drifting toward the parking lot below. The fabric caught the afternoon breeze, dancing mockingly in the sunlight. Derek laughed, that booming, confident sound that had always made family gatherings unbearable. "Look at him, Sam. Just sitting there, like a scared little mouse, no fight in him at all." He grabbed my laptop bag and tossed it toward the door. "Pack up whatever dignity you got left, little brother. The lady's made her choice." I stood slowly, setting down my coffee cup with deliberate care. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. 28 years of being the sensitive one, the quiet one, the family disappointment, and I felt nothing but cold clarity washing over me. "You done?" I asked, my voice steady. Samantha paused mid-throw, holding my winter coat. "What?" I said, "Are you done throwing my stuff around? Because I've got somewhere to be." Derek's grin widened. "Jesus, Tommy, even now you can't stand up for yourself. What kind of man just watches his woman walk away?" I picked up my keys from the coffee table, slipped my wallet into my back pocket. The kind who knows when he's been handed a gift. That stopped them both. Samantha lowered the coat, confusion flickering across her perfect features. Derek's muscled arms crossed over his chest. "Gift?" he repeated. I walked him toward the door, stepping around my scattered belongings. "Yeah, you just showed me exactly who you both are. Saves me years of figuring it out the hard way." "Tommy, wait," Samantha started, but I was already in the hallway. "Enjoy the gym empire, Derek," I called back without turning around. "Hope business stays good." The apartment door slammed behind me, cutting off their confused voices. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my footsteps echoing in the concrete stairwell. By the time I reached the parking lot, a small crowd of neighbors had gathered around my scattered clothes, some helpful souls already collecting my shirts from the asphalt. Mrs. Chen from 2B held up my torn dress shirt with a sympathetic frown. "Oh, Tommy, what happened?" "Spring cleaning," I said, accepting the shirt with a nod. "Sometimes you've got to clear out the trash to see what's worth keeping." I loaded what I could salvage into my Honda Civic, not flashy like Derek's lifted truck or Samantha's leased BMW, but reliable, practical. The kind of car that didn't draw attention, which had always suited me fine. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of Derek and Samantha on the balcony, watching me leave. They were probably expecting tears, maybe begging, definitely some kind of dramatic breakdown that would validate their cruel little performance. Instead, I was already thinking about the files locked in my office safe. The ones I'd kept sealed out of family loyalty. The detailed financial records I'd compiled during those long, boring evenings Samantha had mocked. Evidence of tax evasion, money laundering, and federal violations that could put someone away for decades. You see, my family had always called me weak because I chose forensic accounting over football, legal research over bar fights, careful planning over explosive confrontation. They thought my job at the state attorney general's office was just pushing papers. They had no idea I specialized in building criminal cases against organized financial crimes. Derek's gym empire, 4 locations across the state, all cash-heavy businesses perfect for laundering money, had been on my radar for 2 years. I'd compiled everything: the unreported income, the steroid distribution network, the connections to known criminal enterprises. I'd even traced the source of Samantha's mysterious income, the money that paid for her luxury apartment and designer clothes, while her influencer career barely covered her coffee budget. Family loyalty had kept that file closed. But family loyalty had just been thrown off a third-floor balcony, along with my favorite shirts. I pulled into the parking garage beneath the state attorney building, my hands steady on the steering wheel. The security guard waved me through with a familiar nod. Tommy Arden, the quiet guy who worked late and never caused trouble. The boring paper pusher who built cases that destroyed lives. My office was exactly as I'd left it. Neat, organized, unremarkable. The filing cabinet in the corner looked innocent enough, but the locked drawer contained enough evidence to bring down a small criminal enterprise. I'd been thorough. Financial records, surveillance photos, witness statements, federal database cross-references, everything needed to hand Derek's entire operation to the DEA, IRS, and state licensing boards simultaneously. I unlocked the drawer and pulled out the thick manila folder labeled Derek Arden, Financial Crimes. 2 years of careful investigation compiled during those quiet evenings while Samantha complained about my boring work habits. The irony was beautiful. She'd mocked me for being methodical, detail-oriented, obsessed with documentation. Those same qualities were about to destroy the man she'd chosen over me. I opened my laptop and began typing the cover letter that would accompany my evidence package. Professional, thorough, devastating in its quiet precision. To whom it may concern, please find attached comprehensive evidence of ongoing criminal enterprise violations, including but not limited to federal tax evasion, money laundering, illegal substance distribution, and fraudulent business practices. The next morning brought 23 missed calls and a text message storm that would have been flattering if it weren't so desperate. Derek's messages started angry. "What the hell did you do?" Then confused, "Tommy, call me back." Finally, by 3 a.m., they turned pleading. "Please, I'm your brother." Samantha's texts followed a similar trajectory, though hers included photos. Her crying in what looked like her mother's kitchen, her hands pressed to her face in theatrical despair. "I made a mistake," she wrote. "Please talk to me. I love you." I deleted everything and made coffee. The beauty of working in forensic accounting is that you learn to appreciate timing. I'd submitted my evidence packages at exactly 5 p.m. the previous day. Late enough that the wheels would start turning overnight, early enough that multiple agencies would coordinate their response by morning. Federal investigations don't wait for convenient schedules. My phone rang as I was reading the morning news. Unknown number, but I recognized Derek's panicked voice immediately. "Tommy, what did you do? There are federal agents at all my gyms. They won't tell me anything except I need a lawyer." I sipped my coffee, watching the sunrise paint my new apartment walls gold. After leaving Samantha's place, I'd moved into a furnished studio across town, small, clean, anonymous, perfect for a man starting over. "Tommy, are you there? Please, I'm begging you. They're talking about shutting me down permanently." "I'm here," I said finally. "Thank God." "Look, whatever this is about, we can fix it. I know I was harsh yesterday, but you're my brother. Family doesn't what, Derek? Doesn't humiliate each other in front of crowds? Doesn't steal each other's girlfriends? Doesn't spend years calling each other weak?" Silence stretched between us. In the background, I could hear official voices, the sound of boxes being loaded, the mechanical whir of document scanners. "This is about Samantha?" His voice cracked. "Jesus, Tommy, I didn't know you'd... This isn't about Samantha." I set down my coffee cup, choosing my words carefully. "This is about consequences. You built your entire life on illegal activities, Derek. You just never thought anyone was paying attention. What are you talking about? My gyms are legitimate businesses. Your gyms are money laundering operations. The steroids you've been distributing for the past 3 years are federal crimes. The unreported cash income, the fraudulent tax returns, the connections to known criminal enterprises, it's all documented, Derek. Every transaction, every deal, every crime." Another long silence. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "You've been investigating me? I've been doing my job. You just happened to be breaking federal laws while I was getting really good at catching people who break federal laws." The line went dead. I finished my coffee and got ready for work. The state attorney's office buzzed with quiet energy that morning. My supervisor, Janet Morrison, stopped by my desk with a rare smile. "Heard you handed us a major case yesterday, Arden. Multi-agency coordination, federal implications, nice work." "Just connecting dots?" I said, opening my laptop. Amazing what people leave lying around when they think nobody's watching. DEA says it's the cleanest financial package they've seen in years. Every piece of evidence properly documented, every legal requirement met. They're calling it a textbook takedown. I nodded, already focusing on my next case. A city council member with suspicious real estate transactions, a paper trail that led to some interesting offshore accounts. Boring work, according to my family. Tedious, methodical, unglamorous, absolutely devastating when applied correctly. My phone buzzed with another text from Samantha. Tommy, please, I know you're angry, but this is too much. Derek could go to prison. I typed back, yes, he could. Federal sentencing guidelines suggest 8 to 12 years for his level of involvement. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. You're scaring me. This isn't like you. You're right. The old me would have let family loyalty override justice. The old me would have ignored crimes because they were committed by people I cared about. The old me was weak. I never said you were weak. I scrolled up through our message history, found the screenshot I'd saved from her Instagram story the week before. Her and Derek at some upscale bar, drinks raised in a toast, her caption reading, finally found a real man. Hashtag upgrade complete, hashtag weak men need not apply. I sent her the screenshot without comment. This time, the 3 dots disappeared and didn't come back. By Wednesday, the local news had picked up the story. Multi-location gym chain raided in federal investigation ran on the morning broadcast, complete with footage of Derek being led away in handcuffs. The reporter mentioned sophisticated money laundering operations and multi-year federal investigation. They got the timeline wrong. It hadn't taken years to build the case, just 2 years to document what Derek had been doing openly. The man had kept records of everything, apparently believing his family connections made him untouchable. I was eating lunch at my desk when my mother called. Thomas, what is happening with your brother? He's been arrested for federal crimes, Mom. Multiple felonies. Don't be smart with me. The news is saying someone provided evidence to the government. Someone who knew Derek's business inside and out. I saved my work and leaned back in my chair. Are you asking me something specific? Did you do this to your own brother? The question hung in the air like smoke. 28 years of family dynamics of being the disappointment, the sensitive one, the son who chose books over sports and careful analysis over aggressive action. I did my job, Mom. Derek chose to break federal laws. Those are separate decisions. He's your brother. He's a criminal. Thomas, Mom, let me ask you something. If Derek had been stealing from your bank account for years, would you report him to police? That's different. How? He's been stealing from taxpayers, destroying communities with pill distribution, using legitimate businesses to clean money for organized crime. How is that different from stealing from you personally? Silence. Then quietly, I raised you better than this. You raised me to believe in justice and consequences. That's exactly what this is. She hung up. I went back to my sandwich and started reviewing the next case file. Thursday brought more calls, more texts, more desperate attempts at contact from people who'd spent years treating me like furniture. Derek's business partners, suddenly very interested in my opinion. Samantha's friends wanting to mediate the situation. Even my father, who hadn't called me in 6 months, leaving voicemails about family loyalty and forgiveness. The irony was perfect. When I was weak, when I was the family disappointment, nobody wanted my input on anything. Now that I'd demonstrated exactly how dangerous the quiet, methodical brother could be, everyone wanted to negotiate. I ignored them all and focused on my work. The city council case was developing beautifully. Offshore accounts, shell companies, a pattern of corruption that went back 5 years. Boring, tedious work that would probably destroy several political careers and recover millions in stolen public funds. Friday afternoon, Janet Morrison stopped by my desk again. Arden, I've got something interesting for you. She dropped a thin file on my desk. Remember that influencer case from last month? The one where we couldn't trace the income source? I opened the file and smiled. Samantha Chen, she'd been using her stepfather's surname professionally under investigation for unreported income and possible tax evasion. The complaint had been filed anonymously, but the evidence package was thorough. Bank records, social media analysis, lifestyle documentation that didn't match reported earnings. Looks like someone did their homework, Janet said. Very professional work. Think you can build a case? I flipped through the documentation, recognizing my own methodical style. I'd compiled this months ago, during one of those late nights when Samantha was out networking and I was home alone with public records databases and financial tracking software. Shouldn't be difficult, I said. The evidence is pretty comprehensive. Good. We're coordinating with IRS Criminal Division on this one too. Could be significant penalties if we can prove intentional evasion. After she left, I opened my laptop and began building the case against the woman who'd thrown my clothes off a balcony while laughing about upgrading to a real man. The woman who'd mocked my boring, methodical work habits while I was documenting her crimes. The work was soothing, almost meditative. Each piece of evidence fitted perfectly into place, building an unshakable foundation for prosecution. Bank deposits that didn't match reported income. Luxury purchases that exceeded her claimed earnings, a pattern of deception that painted a clear picture of systematic tax fraud. My phone buzzed with another desperate text from Derek. Please, Tommy, I'll do anything. I was wrong about everything, and just tell me how to fix this. I typed back, federal crimes don't get fixed, Derek. They get prosecuted. I'm your brother. You were my brother on Monday when you called me a weakling and helped my girlfriend humiliate me in public. Today you're a defendant in a federal criminal case. I was drunk. I was stupid. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't undo money laundering, Derek. Sorry doesn't make the steroid distribution disappear. Sorry doesn't erase 2 years of evidence. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times before his final message. I never knew you could be this cold. I stared at that text for a long moment, then typed my response. You never knew me at all. Saturday morning brought an unexpected visitor. I was reviewing case files in my apartment when someone pounded on my door, not knocking, pounding, with the kind of aggressive rhythm that meant trouble. Through the peephole, I saw Marcus Webb, Derek's business partner and longtime friend. Behind him stood 2 other men I recognized from Derek's gym, Tony Ricci and Jake Morrison, both built like professional wrestlers and both looking angry enough to break furniture. I opened the door but kept the chain lock engaged. Tommy, Marcus said, his voice tight with controlled rage. We need to talk. About what? About the fact that you destroyed our friend's life over some petty BS with your girlfriend. I studied the 3 men through the narrow gap. Marcus was the smart one, Derek's business partner who handled the legitimate side of operations, while Derek managed the criminal elements. Tony and Jake were muscle, the kind of guys who solved problems with intimidation and violence. Derek destroyed his own life by committing federal crimes, I said. I just documented what he was already doing. Bees, Tony stepped forward, his massive frame filling my view. You got your feelings hurt and decided to play God with people's lives. Actually, I got evidence of systematic criminal activity and turned it over to appropriate authorities. That's called civic duty. Marcus pushed Tony back slightly. Look, Tommy, we get it. Derek was out of line the other day. Samantha too, but this response is insane. You're talking about sending your own brother to federal prison. I'm talking about consequences for criminal behavior. Derek made his choices. His choices? Jake laughed harshly. What about your choice to spy on your own family? What about your choice to betray people who trusted you? I closed the door, removed the chain, and opened it fully. All 3 men tensed, probably expecting me to invite them in for some kind of negotiation. Instead, I stepped into the hallway and closed the door behind me. Let's be very clear about something, I said, my voice calm and professional. Derek didn't trust me. Derek spent years calling me weak, pathetic, a disappointment to the family. Samantha didn't trust me either. She was planning to leave me for months, probably longer. So let's not pretend this is about betraying trust that never existed. Marcus opened his mouth to respond, but I continued. Second, I didn't spy on anyone. I did my job. Derek's criminal activities were obvious to anyone who bothered to look. The only reason he got away with it for so long is that he assumed nobody was paying attention. Your job? Tony stepped closer, using his size to intimidate. Your job is to destroy families? My job is to investigate financial crimes. Derek committed financial crimes. The math is pretty simple. You sanctimonious little... Tony? Marcus grabbed his friend's arm. Let me handle this. He turned back to me. Tommy, what do you want? Money? An apology? Just tell us what it takes to make this go away. I almost laughed. Make it go away? Marcus, do you understand how federal investigations work? This isn't a civil dispute we can settle out of court. Derek is facing criminal charges. The evidence has been submitted. The wheels are turning. There has to be something. There's nothing. Derek built his entire business model around criminal activity. He distributed illegal substances, laundered money, committed tax fraud, and connected himself to organized crime networks. Those aren't accusations, Marcus. Those are documented facts. Jake stepped forward again, his face flushed with anger. You're really going to stand there and destroy your own brother over some witch who wasn't worth it anyway? The hallway went very quiet. I looked at Jake for a long moment, then at Tony, then at Marcus. Let me explain something to you, I said, my voice still calm. This stopped being about Samantha the moment Derek called me weak. This became about the fact that my family has spent years underestimating me, dismissing me, treating me like I was irrelevant. I stepped closer to Jake, close enough that he had to look down to meet my eyes. You want to know what weak looks like? Weak is building your entire identity around illegal activities because you're too stupid and lazy to succeed legitimately. Weak is needing two friends to back you up for a conversation. Weak is thinking you can intimidate someone into undoing federal charges. Jake's hands clenched into fists. You little weak, I continued, is not understanding that the quiet guy you've been ignoring for years is the same guy who specializes in destroying people like you. Marcus grabbed Jake's arm as he started to move forward. Jake, don't. Why not? This little weasel thinks he's untouchable because he works for the government. I smiled. I don't think I'm untouchable, Jake. I know I'm thorough. For instance, I know about your involvement in Derek's steroid distribution network. I know about the cash payments you received for providing security during pill transactions. And I know about your unreported income and your connections to known criminal enterprises. The color drained from Jake's face. I also know about Tony's participation in money laundering operations and Marcus's role in establishing the shell companies used to hide illegal income. I looked at each of them in turn. Did you really think Derek was the only one I was investigating? Marcus took a step back. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app. Marcus Webb, DOB, March 15th, 1985, SSN 1234567889. Shell companies. Fitness Solutions, LLC, Wellness Partners Incorporated, and Northeast Health Services. Bank accounts at First National, City Trust, and Offshore Holdings. Cayman. Total unreported income, approximately $2.3 million over 3 years. Marcus's face went white. Tony Ricci, DOB, July 22nd, 1983. Muscle for hire, money laundering, pill distribution security. Payment records show $47,000 in unreported income. Jake Morrison, DOB, November 8th, 1984. Similar charges, $52,000 unreported. I put my phone away. The beauty of investigating organized crime is that everyone's connected. You take down one person, you get evidence on everyone else in the network. The three men stood frozen in my hallway, finally understanding the scope of what they were facing. So here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to leave. You're going to contact lawyers. You're going to prepare for federal charges. And you're going to stop pretending this is about family loyalty or romantic drama. I opened my apartment door and stepped inside. This is about consequences. Derek chose to be a criminal. You chose to help him. I chose to do my job. Now we all get to live with those choices. I closed the door and turned the deadbolt. Through the peephole, I watched three dangerous men walk away like scolded children, their world of easy intimidation and casual criminality crumbling around them. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I typed back, yes, it is. Check your mailbox Monday morning. The federal subpoenas should arrive by noon. Then I went back to my case files, already planning the next phase of their destruction. Monday morning arrived with the precision of a Swiss watch and the devastating force of a controlled demolition. I was at my desk by 7 a.m., coffee steaming, case files organized, ready to watch 2 years of methodical investigation reach its inevitable conclusion. The first call came at 8:15 a.m. Marcus Webb, his voice barely controlled panic. Tommy, we need to meet. Right now. I'm at work, Marcus, kinda busy. The subpoenas arrived, all three of us. Federal court, grand jury testimony, the whole thing. His voice cracked. Jesus Christ, Tommy, what did you do? I leaned back in my chair, watching morning sunlight stream through my office window. I told you Saturday I did my job. This is insane. We're talking about federal prison time. Yes, you are. Federal sentencing guidelines are pretty clear on organized financial crimes. You're looking at 5 to 8 years minimum, assuming you cooperate fully and show genuine remorse. Silence stretched across the phone line. When Marcus spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. I have kids, Tommy. A family. You should have thought about that before you helped Derek launder money. We were friends. We grew up together. And I'm his brother. Didn't stop him from humiliating me in public and calling me weak. I opened the case file on my desk. Marcus's financial records spread across multiple pages. Family loyalty is a two-way street, Marcus. You can't demand it from people you've spent years treating like garbage. The line went dead. I made a note in the file and moved on to the next case. At 9:30, my phone rang again. This time it was Samantha, crying so hard I could barely understand her words. Tommy, please, you have to stop this. They froze my bank accounts. They're saying I owe hundreds of thousands in taxes and penalties. Probably accurate. Tax evasion carries significant financial penalties. I can't afford a lawyer. I can't afford anything. They took my car, Tommy. They took my apartment. I felt a small stab of something that might have been sympathy, quickly suppressed by the memory of my clothes floating down from her balcony while she laughed. You should have reported your income properly, Samantha. The tax code isn't optional. I didn't know. You knew exactly what you were doing. You took money from Derek's criminal enterprise. You failed to report it as income, and you used it to fund a lifestyle you couldn't legitimately afford. I pulled up her case file on my computer. The evidence is pretty comprehensive. Evidence you collected while we were dating, while I trusted you. Evidence I collected while you were committing crimes. The timing doesn't change the facts. Her crying intensified. I loved you, Tommy. I really did. Derek seems so much more successful, so much more confident. Derek seemed successful because he was stealing money. He seemed confident because he thought he was too smart to get caught. I closed her file and opened another case. Neither of those things were actually true. Please. I'll do anything. I'll testify against Derek, against all of them. Just tell me how to fix this. You can't fix federal crimes, Samantha. You can only face the consequences and hope the court shows mercy. This isn't you, Tommy. You're not cruel like this. I paused, considering her words. You're right. The old me wasn't cruel. The old me was weak, according to your Instagram posts. The old me would have ignored crimes because they were committed by people I cared about. I never meant. The new me understands that consequences and cruelty aren't the same thing. Derek chose to be a criminal. You chose to be his accomplice. I chose to be a law enforcement officer. These are the results of those choices. I hung up and went back to work. The rest of the week passed in a blur of desperate phone calls, angry voicemails, and increasingly frantic attempts at negotiation from people who were finally beginning to understand the scope of their situation. Derek called from county lockup, his bail denied due to flight risk concerns. Tommy, I'm begging you, please, I'll do anything. There's nothing to do, Derek. The evidence has been submitted, the charges have been filed, and the legal process is moving forward. I'm your brother. You were my brother last Monday when you kicked down my door and called me pathetic. Today you're a defendant in a federal criminal case. I was wrong. I was stupid. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't undo 2 years of money laundering, Derek. My parents called, demanding I fix this situation and show some family loyalty. I sent them copies of Derek's criminal files and suggested they hire him a good defense attorney. My extended family called, aunts and uncles who'd spent years dismissing me as the family disappointment, suddenly very interested in my professional opinion and my willingness to work something out. I ignored them all and focused on my cases. By Friday, the local news had picked up more details. Federal investigation expands. Multiple arrests expected in Jim money laundering case. The reporter mentioned sophisticated financial crimes, multi-year investigation, and cooperation from insider sources with detailed knowledge of the criminal enterprise. They still didn't know it was me. To them, I was just Thomas Arden, quiet government employee, Derek's unremarkable younger brother, the boring guy who pushed papers and lived alone and never caused any drama. Perfect. 3 months later, I sat in federal court and watched Derek plead guilty to 17 counts of money laundering, tax evasion, and pill distribution. His lawyer had negotiated the plea down from 26 counts in exchange for full cooperation and testimony against his co-conspirators. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in federal prison. Marcus Webb got 6 years. Tony Ricci got 5. Jake Morrison got 4, thanks to his cooperation and limited role in the operation. Samantha avoided prison time by agreeing to a plea deal that required full restitution of evaded taxes, plus penalties, plus community service. The total amount effectively bankrupted her, but kept her out of a federal penitentiary. I watched it all from the gallery, taking notes in my professional capacity as the investigating analyst whose evidence had made the prosecutions possible. The local newspaper ran a small article about the sentencing, mentioning the thorough investigation by state and federal authorities that had brought down the criminal enterprise. They interviewed the lead prosecutor, who praised the exceptional quality of evidence and meticulous documentation that had made the cases so strong. No one mentioned my name. No one connected the quiet guy in the back of the courtroom to the investigation that had destroyed 5 lives. Perfect. After the sentencing, I drove to my new apartment, a 2-bedroom place across town, bigger and brighter than my old studio. I'd gotten a promotion at work, recognition for my outstanding contribution to federal law enforcement cooperation. The raise was substantial. My phone had stopped ringing weeks ago. The desperate calls and pleading texts had faded as reality set in and legal bills mounted. My family had stopped trying to convince me to fix the situation. My former friends had stopped trying to negotiate. Everyone had finally accepted that the quiet, methodical, boring brother had systematically destroyed their lives with nothing more than careful documentation and professional competence. I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop. New cases waited. A city contractor with suspicious billing practices, a real estate developer with interesting offshore connections, a small-time politician whose lifestyle exceeded his reported income. Boring work. Tedious, methodical, unglamorous, absolutely devastating when applied correctly. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. For a moment, I wondered if it was Derek, somehow managing to contact me from federal prison, or Samantha, still hoping for some kind of mercy. Instead, it was my supervisor. Great work on the Webb case. New assignment Monday. High-profile corruption investigation. This one could be career-making. I smiled and typed back, looking forward to it. Then I closed my laptop, finished my wine, and went to bed. Tomorrow would bring new cases, new criminals who thought they were too smart to get caught, new opportunities to demonstrate that the quiet ones are often the most dangerous. Derek had called me weak. Samantha had called me boring. My family had called me a disappointment. They were all serving federal sentences now, or bankrupt, or both. I was getting promoted. Sometimes the best revenge is simply being very, very good at your job.